A poor woman left flowers on a grave every Sunday until the CEO appeared and said, "That's my wife's grave too." The rain fell softly that Sunday afternoon, like a gentle hush from the sky, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Anna Reed stood at the rusted gates of Oak Haven Cemetery, a small bouquet of wildflowers cradled in her arms. Her blonde hair, curled and falling just past her shoulders, clung to her cheeks, damp from the mist. She adjusted her scarf and stepped inside. For the last 4 months, every Sunday without fail, she had walked this path alone, quiet and aching. The name on the stone called to her like a thread she could never let go of: Eliza Chase. She followed the winding gravel path past worn tombstones and overgrown grass, her boots crunching softly beneath her. She knew the way now. Her feet moved without thought. Anna had found the name in an old newspaper clipping yellowed with time while digging through archives for a school project. It reported a tragic accident: Eliza Chase, age 29, killed in a car crash. A photo accompanied the piece, and Anna had stared at it for a long time. The resemblance was uncanny. Same face, same eyes, same mouth, a mirror with different memories. And then a name surfaced from deep inside her, from some distant corner of a forgotten childhood. A name whispered in the cold halls of the orphanage where she had grown up: Eliza, my sister. Now Anna knelt beside the headstone, brushing away rain and leaves from the carved letters. Her hands trembled as she arranged the bouquet of bluebells, daisies, and baby's breath into the copper vase nestled at its base. "Hi, Eliza. I'm sorry I'm late," she whispered, barely audible. "I hope these are still your favorite." The breeze stirred and the trees above rustled gently, as if listening. From her coat pocket, Anna pulled out a small worn photo, creased and faded. 2 toddler girls sat side by side, identical in their chubby faces and oversized sweaters. On the back, scrolled in old ink, it read, "Anna and Eliza, age 2. She had carried the photo her entire life. No one had ever come for Eliza at the orphanage, and no one had said what happened. But now, after all this time, Anna had found her. As she leaned forward to rest the photo against the headstone, a voice suddenly cut through the air. "That's my wife's grave too." Anna startled, turning around quickly. A tall man stood a few feet away, dressed in a dark coat, his eyes sharp and unreadable. Beside him was a little girl in a pink dress, holding a small umbrella with stars. The child stared at Anna, unblinking. The man's voice came again, low and measured. "Who are you?" Anna stood brushing dirt and rain from her palms. "My name is Anna Reed." He took a step closer, his eyes narrowing. "Why are you leaving flowers here? Did you know Eliza?" She swallowed hard, her heart pounding. "I believe she was my sister, my twin." A long pause followed. The man's expression shifted, tightening. He studied her face again, more carefully this time, as though confirming what his gut had already screamed. "No," he said coldly. "That's not possible." Anna didn't flinch. Her voice stayed gentle, steady. "I grew up in foster care. I never knew her last name until recently. I've been searching for her for years." "You expect me to believe that?" he asked, his tone quiet but hard. Anna reached into her satchel and pulled out a weather-worn plastic folder. "These are orphanage records, photos, a note from a social worker. It's all I have." He didn't take them, not yet. He just looked at her. The little girl beside him took a small step forward, her eyes still locked on Anna. Her grip tightened on the umbrella handle. "Daddy," she whispered, tugging at his coat. "She looks like Mommy." The man glanced down at his daughter, then back up at Anna. Something flickered behind his guarded expression. Doubt, confusion, fear. "I don't know what game you're playing," he said finally, more to himself than to her. "But if this is some kind of trick—" "It's not," Anna said, her voice barely above the rain. "I'm not here to hurt anyone. I just wanted to say hello and goodbye." He didn't respond. The cemetery fell into stillness again, the kind that comes after truth brushes up against pain. The little girl, still watching, stepped even closer to Anna. Her umbrella dipped slightly as she reached out toward the flowers, her small fingers gently brushing a bluebell's petal. Anna looked at her, her eyes soft. The girl's eyes, so wide, so familiar, met hers, and in that single silent moment, everything else faded away. The kitchen was quiet except for the ticking of a clock and the faint hum of the refrigerator. Outside, the afternoon sun spilled through the window, casting soft golden light across the counter. Anna sat at the small table, her hands trembling as she unfolded the envelope. Daniel stood across from her, arms crossed, his face still unreadable, as though bracing for something he had not yet admitted he feared. Anna read the letter once, then again, her breath caught in her chest. She put a hand over her mouth, the paper slipping from her fingers to the table. "It's true," she whispered, her voice cracking. "She was my sister, my twin." Daniel looked down, jaw tightening. Anna let out a sound, half sob, half breath. Tears rolled down her cheeks, unashamed and quiet. "If I had found her sooner," she said, choking on the words, "maybe she'd still be here." Daniel didn't answer right away. He stared at the letter for a long moment, then slowly picked it up. His hand gripped the paper, but his voice was barely above a whisper. "She was always looking for something she couldn't name," he murmured. "She'd stare off sometimes like she was waiting for someone. Maybe it was you." Anna wiped her tears with the sleeve of her sweater. The silence between them was no longer cold. It was shared, weighted with grief, but softened by understanding. Ava sat quietly at the corner of the room, crayon in hand, drawing on a piece of paper with quiet focus. Her pink dress was speckled with tiny drops of paint from earlier that morning, and her curls bounced gently as she leaned forward to finish the last corner of her drawing. Anna glanced over at her. "She's beautiful," she said softly. "She looks so much like Eliza." Daniel nodded, his gaze softening for the first time. "She's all I have left of her." Ava slid off the chair, gripping her drawing tightly in both hands. She walked toward Anna and held it out. "I drew a rainbow," she said. "That's me and Daddy and Mommy." Anna took the paper, gently smiling through the ache in her chest. "It's lovely," she whispered. Ava tilted her head, studying Anna with those same deep, thoughtful eyes. She stepped closer, close enough that Anna could see the fine freckles on her nose, the slight curve of her mouth that mirrored Eliza's perfectly. For a long moment, Ava just stared at her. Then, in a voice so quiet it could have been a breeze, she asked, "Mommy." Anna froze. Daniel's head snapped up. His mouth parted as if to speak, but no words came. Ava blinked as though just realizing what she had said, but she did not take it back. She simply reached out, resting her hand on Anna's. Anna couldn't speak. Her heart twisted in her chest. The child's touch was warm, real, a piece of Eliza reaching out across the silence, through time, through loss. Daniel watched, breath shallow, unsure of what this moment meant, what it would become. No one moved, no one dared to. The room held its breath. And just like that, everything had changed. The rain had stopped. The air was still, as if holding something sacred. Daniel stood at the edge of the attic, a dust-covered wooden box in his hands. It had been sealed shut for years, tucked away behind old blueprints and childhood keepsakes. He had almost forgotten it existed until that morning, when a thought struck him, without warning. He carried it downstairs and placed it gently on the coffee table. Anna looked up from the sofa, her eyes red from a night of reading and remembering. "What's that?" she asked softly. Daniel didn't answer right away. He knelt down and opened the lid. Inside, beneath a stack of folded letters and faded photos, was a small leather-bound journal. On top of it rested something delicate, two matching silver pendants on a chain. One was missing a clasp, the other had a tiny A engraved on the back. Daniel lifted them out and handed one to Anna. "I think this was yours." Anna stared at the necklace in his hand. Her fingers trembled as she reached out and touched it. The shape, the curve, it all felt familiar in a way that broke her heart. Daniel opened the journal. The first page was smudged from time and tears, but the handwriting was still clear, delicate, and full of longing. "Dear Anna, I hope you're somewhere warm. I hope one day you'll find me. Sometimes I dream about you. We are in a field with blue flowers. You're smiling. You always smile in my dreams. Love, Eliza. Anna pressed the journal to her chest, her breath catching in her throat. She remembered me, she whispered, even after all that time. Daniel sat beside her, his voice quiet. She never talked much about her childhood, but sometimes she'd hum this lullaby. She said she didn't know where it came from, just that it made her feel safe. Anna smiled faintly. We used to sing it together at the orphanage. I remember we called it our secret song. There was a pause. Daniel turned a few more pages, his eyes scanning words written in soft ink. Eliza had written about her dreams, her fears, her deep ache to find Anna again, and about something else, something bright and hopeful. She wanted to open a school, Daniel said aloud, a place for children who didn't have homes. She wrote about it in almost every entry. Anna nodded, brushing away a tear. She talked about being the kind of teacher who gave kids more than lessons. She wanted to give them family. Daniel exhaled. I used to think there was just a sadness in her that nothing could fix. I tried, but I never understood where it came from. He looked at Anna, then his expression soft. Now I do. Across the room, Ava sat cross-legged on the floor, coloring quietly with crayons. She had been unusually still, listening without saying much. She looked up now, eyes wide, and held out a picture she had drawn. It was of two women standing side by side beneath a tree, one with long blonde hair and the other with a crown of blue flowers. A little girl stood between them, holding both their hands. Anna took the picture and smiled. "Who's this?" she asked gently. Ava hesitated. Then she crawled closer, resting her head against Anna's arm. "If you're Mommy's sister," she said softly, "does that make you my half-mommy?" Anna blinked back a sudden rush of emotion. She wrapped an arm around the little girl and held her close. "I don't know what it makes me," she whispered, "but I know I care about you with my whole heart." Daniel watched them from across the room, his daughter nestled against the sister of the woman he loved, and felt something shift in his chest, something long buried, something beginning again. The sun poured gently over the old community center, dusting the wooden floors in gold. The place was small and worn, but the moment Anna stepped inside, she could see Eliza's dream taking shape. "This is it?" she asked, looking around. Daniel stood beside her, arms loosely crossed, his gaze scanning the empty walls. "It needs work. Paint, furniture, probably a new roof. But yes, this is where she wanted it to be." Anna took a deep breath. "Then let's do it." They began the very next day. At first, everything felt uncertain. Anna and Daniel moved around each other carefully, like dancers unsure of the next step. When their hands brushed while moving desks, both pulled away. When they spoke, it was mostly logistics supplies, enrollment permits. No one talked about the journal or the necklace or that moment in the kitchen when Ava had called Anna Mommy. Slowly, the work created a rhythm. Anna painted clouds and stars on the walls. Daniel built low shelves for books, carved small cubbies with names for each child. He was quiet, always focused, always a little distant. But when he watched Anna teach Ava how to fold paper cranes or tie her shoes, something in him softened. Every evening, Ava sat at the back of the room, legs swinging as she waited for them to finish. She had taken to bringing a photo of her mother Eliza in her cap and gown, holding baby Ava at her graduation. One afternoon, she handed the photo to Anna. "This was my first teacher," Ava said with a small smile. "Now I have another one." Anna's throat tightened. She knelt down, brushing a strand of hair from Ava's face. "She would be proud of you," Anna whispered. "Of both of you." Ava beamed, then ran off to draw chalk rainbows on the sidewalk. As the weeks passed, the classroom began to feel alive. Children from nearby shelters and foster homes came to visit, some shy, some wild with laughter. The scent of crayons and glue filled the room. Laughter echoed off the painted walls. And in between all of it, Daniel and Anna started to fall into step, not just as co-workers, but as something closer. One evening, Anna stayed late to organize books. Daniel returned from a supply run and found her on the floor surrounded by stacks of picture books and art kits. She looked up and laughed. "You have a lot of faith in duct tape," she teased, holding up a taped-together chair. He smiled, and for once it reached his eyes. "You'd be surprised what you can fix with duct tape and hope." They shared a moment of silence, not awkward, just calm, still settled like the pause between heartbeats. Later that night, while cleaning Ava's backpack, Daniel found a folded piece of paper stuffed in a side pocket. Curious, he opened it. It was a drawing. 3 figures stood beneath a rainbow: a tall man, a woman with blonde hair, and a little girl in a pink dress. All 3 were smiling. Above them in bright block letters, Ava had written, "This is my new happy." Daniel stood in the kitchen holding the paper unmoving for a long time. His daughter, his late wife's sister, and something inside him that against all odds had started to hope again. He looked toward the window where Anna sat under the porch light reading aloud to Ava. Her voice was soft, her smile warm, and for the first time in a very long while, Daniel did not feel alone. The house was quiet, cloaked in the kind of silence that only comes late at night. The world outside had gone to sleep, but Daniel sat alone in the living room, his back slightly hunched over the grand piano tucked into the corner. His fingers hovered above the keys, uncertain, then pressed down gently. A simple melody drifted into the room, soft, unfinished, like a memory, trying to find its way home. It was a piece he had started long ago, meant for Eliza. But after her death, the music had gone silent, the notes too painful to finish. Tonight, for reasons he could not explain, the melody had returned. Behind him down the hallway, Anna stood in the shadows. She had been on her way to the kitchen for tea when the sound of the piano had stopped her. She did not move, did not speak. She simply listened. There was grief in the notes, yes, but also warmth, a kind of ache that was no longer angry, just tired, healing, searching. Anna wrapped her arms around herself, unsure if she should step forward or stay invisible. She chose the latter, and when the final note faded, she quietly turned away. 2 nights later, a different kind of silence filled the house. Ava had woken with a fever. She whimpered softly in her bed, cheeks flushed and skin hot to the touch. Daniel carried her into the living room and paced, worry creasing his brow. Anna appeared without needing to be called. She knelt beside Ava on the couch, gently pressing a cool cloth to her forehead. "I can stay," she said, her voice calm. "You look exhausted." Daniel hesitated. Then with a silent nod, he sat beside them. Hours passed in soft murmurs and gentle hands. Anna sang a lullaby so quietly it seemed to melt into the air. Daniel watched her cradle Ava's hand, her thumb rubbing small circles into the child's palm. Around 3:00 a.m., Ava finally drifted into sleep, curled beneath a blanket with her head resting on Anna's lap. Daniel sat across from them, elbows on knees, watching in silence. "She hasn't let anyone comfort her like that since Eliza," he said quietly. Anna looked down at the sleeping child. "She's so brave," she whispered. A moment passed, the kind of moment where hearts speak in glances, not words. Daniel inhaled deeply, then exhaled as if letting something go. "You're not replacing Eliza," he said, "but you make me believe love can return." Anna looked at him, then truly looked, and saw the truth of it in his eyes. He moved closer and reached for the blanket draped over the armrest. Together without a word, they leaned in to cover Ava properly. As they pulled the fabric gently over her shoulders, their hands brushed lightly at first, then paused. The touch lingered longer than it should have, not out of hesitation, but out of something else, longing, fear, hope. They both looked down at their hands, then at each other, their faces only inches apart, breaths shallow. They stood too close for comfort and too far for comfort. Anna was the first to move just a step back, eyes lowering. Daniel followed, retreating into the silence again. But something had changed. In the quiet of that night, the piano was still, the fever had broken, and 2 people who thought their hearts were frozen had felt them stir just a little, but enough. The rumor started with a whisper, a single comment on a social media post. She looks too much like Eliza. That cannot be a coincidence. Then came the photos, side-by-side comparisons of Anna and Eliza threads, speculating connections. Some people were touched, others suspicious. Then the story hit a local blog picked up by a few online tabloids. From there it spread like wildfire. The headlines were brutal: teacher or imposter, the woman living in a dead wife's shadow. Widower's new flame claims to be his late wife's twin. Too convenient. Anna tried to ignore it at first, but it was hard when reporters started calling the school. Parents began asking questions. One morning she walked into the classroom and found two moms whispering in the hallway, casting glances her way. That same day, a woman showed up at the school gates. Sharp eyes, expensive shoes, confidence that bordered on cruelty. Her name was Marissa Hale. She had known Eliza in college, once mentioned briefly in the journal as the one who always thought the world owed her something. "I knew Eliza better than anyone," Marissa said, her voice smooth and venom-laced. "She never mentioned a sister ever. You expect us to believe she just forgot she had a twin?" Anna stood frozen by the classroom door, hands clenched tightly. "We were separated when we were 2, she said quietly. "She may not have remembered everything." Marissa tilted her head, her lips curling. "Or maybe you're playing a very long game. A grieving widower, a vulnerable child. It's convenient, isn't it?" The words sliced through Anna like ice. That night she stood in front of the bathroom mirror, the light dimmed low. Her reflection stared back at her, pale and tired. She traced the shape of her cheek with her fingertip, then blinked. And in that second she imagined it was Eliza looking back. Same eyes, same curve of the mouth. "I'm not trying to be you," she whispered, her voice cracking. "I was just trying to love what's left of you." Her tears came fast and silent. By morning she was gone. She left a letter on the kitchen counter, a quiet note scribbled in haste. Daniel found it before Ava did. "I never meant to cause chaos. I just wanted to find my sister. Please take care of her for both of us." When Ava realized Anna was not coming that morning, she screamed. She ran to her room, flung open drawers, pulled at the books where Anna used to sit and read. Finally, she stood in the doorway, clutching the drawing she once made of the three of them. "You're not my mom," she sobbed, "but I still want you to be." Daniel knelt down and hugged her tight, his chest hollow with guilt. That afternoon, the school hosted a quarterly parent meeting. Daniel almost did not attend, but when he walked through the doors, murmurs erupted. Some parents looked away. Others looked straight at him, waiting. He stood at the front of the room, heart pounding. "I know what's been said," he began. "And I know this has been hard to watch from the outside, but let me tell you what I see." He paused, searching the room for faces. His voice steadied. "I see a woman who carries the same heart as the sister she lost. A woman who gives everything she has to children who need love. A woman who stayed up 3 nights straight to care for my daughter when she was sick, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. If Eliza were here, I believe she'd choose Anna too, because Anna doesn't just care for my daughter, she loves her like her own." There was a long silence. Then somewhere near the back, a parent clapped. Another followed, and another. It was not thunderous, but it was enough. Daniel left the meeting with a decision already burning in his chest. He was not going to lose Anna, not to fear, not to gossip, not to the ghost of someone he would always love. He was going to fight for the family he had now. The first day of the new school year dawned with soft gray clouds rolling across the sky. The scent of wet earth lingered from the night's rain, and dew clung to the flower beds lining the school's walkway. Anna stood at the edge of the yard watching children gather under colorful umbrellas. Their backpacks bounced with excitement as parents waved goodbye from car windows. The school Eliza's dream was alive and full of laughter. Anna had not planned on coming. She had left to protect Daniel and Ava from more pain. But something about the silence that followed the emptiness of being away from them made her realize running was not the answer. She had returned quietly that morning, unsure if anyone would even notice. But before she could take a full step through the school gates, she heard a familiar little voice behind her. "Miss Anna." Anna turned just in time to see Ava running curls, bouncing arms outstretched. She crashed into Anna's legs, hugging her fiercely. "I missed you," Ava said, her voice muffled against Anna's coat. "I missed you too, sweetheart," Anna replied, kneeling down. Then Ava pulled something from her pocket, a small silver necklace with a delicate chain, slightly tarnished, but still whole, one of the twin pendants. "This was Mommy's," Ava said. "She kept it in her jewelry box. I want you to have it now." Anna took the necklace in her palm. Her eyes glistened as she ran her fingers over the familiar shape, the tiny engraving on the back E+A. Before she could respond, Daniel stepped forward from behind the oak tree near the sidewalk, holding an umbrella. He looked like he had not slept much, but his smile was soft, warm. "I was hoping you'd come today," he said. Anna rose slowly, heart pounding. "I wasn't sure I should." Daniel stepped closer. "Then let me be sure for you. Come with me just for a minute." She hesitated but nodded. He led her past the playground, through the small grove behind the school, down a narrow path that curved toward the nearby cemetery. The clouds thickened above them, and a fine drizzle began to fall, soft as whispers. When they reached Eliza's grave, Daniel stopped. The rain fell lightly on his shoulders, his umbrella, long forgotten, at his side. Anna stood beside him, silent, her eyes fixed on the stone that bore her sister's name. Daniel placed his hand gently on the top of the headstone. "You said love would find its way," he murmured. "I think it just did." He turned toward Anna. Slowly he lowered himself to one knee in the damp grass. "Eliza was where it started," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "She gave me a life, a daughter, a reason to believe in family. But you, Anna, you're the one who makes me want to go on." Rain tapped against the leaves above them, steady and rhythmic. Anna didn't speak. Her eyes shimmered, but her lips were still. Then, instead of answering, she turned. Ava had followed quietly behind, waiting under a pink umbrella near the edge of the trees. She stood there, hopeful, holding her breath. Anna walked to her, knelt down, and reached for her tiny hand. Ava looked up, eyes wide, and without a word she squeezed Anna's fingers tightly. Then she nodded. Anna looked back at Daniel. Tears and raindrops mixed on her cheeks as she whispered the only word that mattered. "Yes." Daniel exhaled as if he had been holding his breath for a lifetime. He stood, took both Anna and Ava into his arms, and for the first time in 3 years, let joy rise freely in his chest. They stood there, the three of them wrapped in rain, and something deeper than words, under the sky where Eliza once belonged, and under the promise of something new. The garden behind the school had never looked more alive. Golden sunlight filtered through the oak trees, casting soft shadows over rows of white chairs filled with smiling faces. Paper lanterns swayed gently in the breeze, and flower petals lined a narrow aisle leading to a wooden arch wrapped in white fabric and wildflowers. It had been a year since Anna said yes in the rain. 1 year since Daniel had played music again. 1 year since Ava started drawing pictures of 3 instead of 2. Today they were getting married. Not in a chapel, not in a hall, but here in the backyard of the school that Eliza had only dreamed of. Ava, now 6, stood proudly at the front of the garden, clutching a tiny pair of scissors. She wore a pink dress with white lace and a daisy crown in her curls. A ribbon banner hung across 2 chairs behind her, Eliza's hope, a free school for every child. Anna, in a simple ivory dress, stood with her hands folded, her heart full. Daniel stood at her side, his eyes soft. He was the man who once thought he had lost the ability to love again. The crowd hushed as Ava raised the scissors and cut the ribbon. Cheers followed, and Anna felt her chest swell with something so deep it nearly brought her to her knees. Later, as the sun lowered in the sky, everyone gathered under the arch. No microphones, no stage, just love and quiet witnesses. Daniel sat at the piano, brought out just for this day. His fingers moved over the keys with calm confidence, playing a melody both familiar and new. The tune drifted like sunlight, gentle healing. He paused before the final notes and looked toward the guests. "This was a song I started for Eliza," he said. "For a long time I couldn't finish it, but now I have." He turned to Anna, then Ava. I called it Eliza's Light. From the front row, Ava tilted her head. Can we call it Anna's Light now? Laughter rippled through the garden. Anna laughed too, her hand pressed over her heart. When it came time for vows, Anna stepped forward. Her voice trembled at first, then steadied. I came here to say sorry to my sister. She said, her eyes lifting toward the sky, for the years we lost, for the birthday songs we never sang, for the questions she must have had that I never got to answer. She looked at Ava, then at Daniel. But I leave today with a man who loves me not because I look like someone he lost, but because I became someone he chose, and a child who calls me Mommy with her whole heart, even when she didn't have to. Her voice broke, but she continued. And to the sister I never got to hug, this family is for you. Silence followed. Then soft applause, a few tears, a few smiles, and somewhere in the warm breeze the sense that someone unseen was smiling too. As the evening faded into golden light, Daniel, Anna, and Ava walked hand in hand down the familiar path behind the school toward the cemetery. They did not speak. They did not need to. At Eliza's grave, a fresh bouquet of wildflowers rested on the stone. Anna knelt, touched the petals, and whispered, "Thank you." Daniel laid a gentle hand on the headstone. Ava stepped forward and placed a small heart-shaped rock beside the flowers. "I love you, Mommy, in the sky," she said, "and I love my Mommy down here too." Then she took off running, laughing, twirling in her pink dress under the golden sky, her giggles echoing through the trees. Daniel and Anna stood together, hands entwined, watching her. The sun caught their rings and wrapped them in a quiet warmth. They were no longer mourning, no longer waiting. They were living. And as Ava danced across the field, the world seemed to pause for one perfect second. A bouquet on the grave, a little girl spinning in sunlight, and a family whole at last. And so what began as a quiet act of placing flowers on a forgotten grave became the beginning of a new family, a healed heart, and a love story written not in perfection, but in forgiveness, courage, and hope. Anna found more than a sister. Daniel found more than peace. And little Ava, she found a whole world of love with two mommies, one in the sky and one holding her hand.